This is the day the Lord has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Greetings, I'm Sister Brenda Shipp, National Superintendent of Sunday School of the Original Churches of God. Highlights of Sunday School Lesson, September the 20th, 2020. Lesson 3. Love versus Guilt, found in Genesis 42, verses 6 through 25. Devotional reading, Psalms 51. Love versus guilt. Joseph's brothers had to endure several tests that was designed by God to bring them to repentance. Joseph was on hand when his 10 brothers arrived to buy grain, and he recognized them. The brothers didn't recognize him because he was clean-shaven like an Egyptian. He was dressed like an Egyptian, and he spoke to them in Egyptian language through an interpreter. 4 times Joseph accused them of being in Egypt under false pretense. The brothers denied that they were spies. But Joseph was glad to know his father and younger brother were both alive and well. Joseph's ultimate goal was to get all 11 brothers to Egypt so they could bow before him and fulfill the dream God had given him more than 20 years ago. Joseph's goal was to get the brothers to confess their sins and be reconciled to him and Jacob, the father. Some people allow the hurts of the past to poison their future. When Joseph saw and remembered his brother who sold him into Egyptian slavery, he showed them compassion while motivating them to recall and take responsibility for their action. Jesus gives a model on which to handle conflict. In Matthew 18, chapter 15 through the 17th verse, Jesus says, "If your brother sins, go and rebuke him in private. If he listens to you, you have won your brother. If he does not listen, take 1 or 2 with you, so that by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every fact may be confirmed." We don't always practice humility. Deliberately or unconsciously, we offend others and hurt them. Jesus gives instructions on what to do. He says, keep the matter private. Speak to the person alone. The person may not realize what they have done. Ask for help from others. True reconciliation requires sincere repentance and humble confession of sin. Often it takes time for a person to get to that place. Reconciliation has to do with resolving conflict between people and bringing them back into harmony with one another. To reconcile means to restore harmony or peace, to bring 2 hostile parties into peace and agreement with each other by removing the reason for their hostility. In Galatians 6:1, we must have a spirit of meekness and gentleness when we seek to restore a brother or sister. Ephesians 4:2 says, "Be completely humble and gentle. Be patient, bearing one another in love." Colossians 3:13, "Bear with each other and forgive one another if any of you has a grievance against someone." Romans 12:10 says, "Be devoted to one another in brotherly love." Joseph is sold as a slave. Israel got deceived by his children. You sold me, but God sent me. God gave Joseph a dream. Deep in his heart, Joseph knew that God had a vision for his life. When you find yourself in the pits of life, sometimes we want to turn our back on God, and we think He has forgotten all about us. We should draw closer to God, regardless how difficult the struggle. The Bible said the Lord was with Joseph so that he prospered. Temptation will come, but let God's grace cause you to flee sin and protect you from all of the enemy's traps. Joseph knew that his gift to interpret dreams came from God. He never took credit for it. He always stayed focused on giving God the glory for all that he did. Throughout Joseph's journey, he learned to show humility. We must set our heart on forgiving those around us who hurt us, because it will free our heart from bitterness and deep resentment from the past. If we want to live a prosperous life, we must glorify God through the way we live our lives. Joseph continued to cultivate and pursue a relationship with God. We must continue our relationship with God. Joseph's brothers were tested. God teaches us to stand. God's test strengthens and purifies our heart. God's test strengthens our relationship with Him and with others. God's test brings honor to Him. So I admonish you to hold to God's unchanging hand. I love that hymn. Time is filled with swift transition. Naught of earth unmoved can stand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Hold to God's unchanging hand. Trust in Him who will not leave you, whatsoever years may bring. If by earthly friends forsaken, still more closely to Him cling. Covet not this world's vain riches, that so rapidly decay. Seek to gain the heavenly treasures, they will never pass away. When your journey is completed, if to God you have been true, fair and bright the home and glory your enraptured soul will view. Hold to God's unchanging hand. Hold to God's unchanging hand. Build your hopes on things eternal. Just hold to God's unchanging hand. Until next week, God be merciful to us and bless us and cause His face to shine on us. Be blessed.